Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, here's a thought for you. What if every natural event, from a falling leaf to a devastating earthquake, wasn't just random? What if it was a message? Today, we're going to dive into a text that suggests the universe is basically talking to us all the time. But the real question is, are we even listening? So let's start with a story. Picture this, a totally peaceful village right at the foot of Saleh's mountain. It's idyllic. But then, in a blink of an eye, everything changes. That peace is just gone. A massive, catastrophic landslide comes down and buries 3 whole villages, wipes them off the map, just like that. And you know what? That's not the only mystery we're looking at. The author of this text, Zhu Feng, he tells us about something else he saw with his own eyes. This time, we're way, way up in the Qilian Mountains, almost 4,000 meters above sea level. Okay, so try to imagine this. You're looking at a field. Yesterday, it was totally barren. Today, it's green. It just sprouted overnight. And it gets weirder. In just a few days, this grass does its whole thing. It flowers, it fruits, it matures. I mean, its entire life cycle at a speed that just seems impossible, right? And then, bam, just as fast as it showed up, it's gone. The whole process, from birth to death, is over in less than a month. The mountain goes right back to being yellow and barren. It's like a whole lifetime just flashed before your eyes. All right, so let's recap. We've got this sudden, horrific disaster on one hand, and this unbelievably fast cycle of life and death on the other. It all feels so chaotic, random, even terrifying. But the author of our text, he says, hold on. He thinks there's a deeper logic here, a whole framework for making sense of it all. So what is this big framework he's talking about? Well, it all kicks off with one core idea. The universe is not silent. It's talking to us constantly. Just maybe not in a language we're used to. He suggests that pretty much everything you see in the natural world, the movement of the stars, the call of a bird, the changing seasons, a devastating earthquake, all of it. He says these are the words and phrases of this giant cosmic language. Okay, so this is the key. You have to get this part. These aren't just random physical things happening. According to this worldview, they're messages. They're intentional. So a landslide isn't just about geology moving dirt around. It's a statement. An earthquake isn't just tectonic plates grinding together. It's a sentence in a much, much bigger conversation. Which, of course, brings us to the big question, right? If the universe is speaking, how in the world are we supposed to listen? I mean, if our normal senses, our eyes and ears, are only catching the surface level stuff, what other tools do we need to actually figure out what's being said? Well, to answer that, the author says we actually have 2 totally different ways of knowing the world. And if you want to get fluent in this language of nature, you've got to use both of them. He calls them spiritual sense and wisdom. Now, spiritual sense is basically your intuition. You know, that gut feeling? It's what lets you just perceive that something exists. Think of it as the world of religion or art or emotion. Wisdom, on the other hand, that's your intellect. That's the logical, analytical brain that wants to know why things work the way they do. That's the home turf of science and reason. And here's his big point. You can't have one without the other. They're a team. Your spiritual sense lets you feel that there is a message, like you know a letter has arrived. But it's wisdom that lets you open the envelope and actually read what it says. You need both. Let me put it another way. Your spiritual sense is what feels that profound core truth. I am alive, and someday I will die. It's a deep knowing. Your wisdom is what comes in with biology and physics and explains the how and why of that process. To really get the full picture of your own existence, you need both that deep feeling and the scientific explanation. Okay, so that's the theory. But how does this new toolkit, this combo of intuition and intellect, help us make sense of that awful landslide we talked about at the beginning? This is where the author drops the principle that is absolutely central to his whole philosophy. It goes like this. Small changes accumulate gradually. Big changes happen in an instant. It means that what looks like a sudden shock is almost always the end result of slow, tiny changes that have been happening under the radar, totally unnoticed. And this is what's so fascinating when you apply it to the Saleh's Mountain disaster. That sudden catastrophe, turns out it wasn't sudden at all. For years, people were making small changes. They were building terraces on the mountain, diverting river water up there for irrigation. And slowly, bit by bit, those little actions were soaking the ground, making the whole mountain unstable. And then, One day, it hits the tipping point, and boom, the whole thing collapses in a flash. And you can see this pattern everywhere, not just in geology. Think about it. A stock market doesn't just crash out of the blue. It's usually preceded by thousands of little, questionable decisions adding up over time. Or a personal health crisis. That often comes after years of subtle habits and choices. The big change is really just the final dramatic chapter of a long, quiet story. So this whole idea that the most important stuff is often happening slowly, quietly, where we can't see it, this leads the author to his final and I think maybe his most profound insight. He tells these 3 little stories about his life. Just these fleeting moments, a few seconds here, 10 seconds there, where he saw these incredibly rare animals. A white deer deep in a forest. Some cranes that even the old-timers in the area had almost never seen. These weren't just about seeing cool animals. For him, they were these little flashes of something deeper. And all of this brings him to his core conclusion, summed up in this one phrase. The valuable is not easily revealed. It's so simple, but so powerful. Just like those rare, hidden animals, the most precious things in life. Real wisdom, real truth, real connection. They're not just lying out in the open for anyone to grab. They don't scream for your attention. They're quiet. They're hidden. And you have to have a certain kind of patience, a different way of seeing, to even find them. And this is where it all comes together, you see? To understand the language of the universe, to see those slow, hidden changes that lead to the big, dramatic events, and to find the things that are truly valuable in your own life, well, you can't just rely on your everyday 5 senses. You have to cultivate that deeper way of seeing, that spiritual sense he was talking about, to get a glimpse of what's really going on beneath the surface. So in the end, the text kind of leaves us with this challenge. If the world really is this puzzle, constantly speaking in a hidden language filled with these deep truths that aren't easy to see, how are you going to try and solve it? Are you only going to use your intellect, or are you going to try and train that intuition too? And maybe the biggest question of all is, what might you be missing if you don't?